from Minerva, and this video is a sew-along for the pattern 6718 by Burda. This is the pattern for a hoodie, for a men's hoodie. Today we're going to be making view A of this pattern. This features the hood and the pocket. Obviously, if you want to make view B, you can still follow along because those are the only differences in the pattern. View B does not feature a pocket and has a snood instead of a hood. So those are the only differences. You can obviously still work along with us if you want to. The back of the pattern tells us how much fabric we're going to be needing for whatever size we want to make. Also tells us what other materials we might need. So if we need any kind of cord or eyelets or buttons or zippers, it will tell you in the back of the pattern. And finally, it will also tell you what kind of fabrics you should use for the pattern. So for this pattern specifically, you could use sweatshirting, Nikki velour fabric, or fiber fleece. And the contrasting fabric for the cuffs and the hem will be any kind of rib knit that you like. You could use contrasting colors, you could use same colors. There's a lot of room to play around here. You'll also be needing some cord for the hood or snood to pull it, make it a little bit tighter if you want to. And you will be needing some metal eyelets. So let me show you what materials I have and we can get started. First, our fabric. I have just over 2 meters of this fleece back sweatshirt knit fabric. It is in the color navy blue. It's so super soft. It has a little bit of stretch to it, but it just feels so soft, and I'm very excited to make things with it because it just feels like a dream to wear. For contrasting fabric, we have this Mind the Maker organic cotton rib knit fabric. This is in the color dark navy. It has a lovely feel to it. It's nice and light, but has structure. It has a really nice stretch, and it just goes beautifully with the other fabric that we picked out for this. We have some Gutermann matching thread. This is color 387. Then we have some parka cord by Prim. This is about 3 meters. I don't think you will need this much, but it's always good to have a little bit of extra. And this is 4 millimeters wide. And then last but not least, we have some eyelets with washers. We have a Prim set. These are 5 millimeters wide, and these come with the little tool you need. Other materials that I suggest you use are a ballpoint or jersey specific needle for your sewing machine. This is not necessary. If you don't have one, it's okay. You will still be able to make this project, but it definitely helps and makes the process a lot smoother and a lot easier. They're relatively inexpensive and really easy to find. So I will link some below, as well as all the materials that I just mentioned, so you can get those and we can work together on this project. If you want, you can also save this video so you can refer to it back once you actually have the materials to work with me. And that way we can sew along together.
Our first step will be cutting out the pattern pieces. The instructions will specify which pieces you will need to cut for each view. As we're making view A, we will need pieces 1 through to 7. The different lines around the pattern pieces refer to the different sizes, so check on the pattern what size you need and cut the pattern pieces accordingly. The pattern includes a fabric cutting guide, which you can use to double check you are cutting your fabric pieces correctly. Place your pattern pieces on your fabric and cut, keeping in mind this pattern already includes seam and hem allowance. Because we're working with knits, it's really important to cut the fabric in the correct grain, and you may need to take your time to find the best way to cut your fabric to avoid wasting it. I find that cutting it using the wrong side, so right sides facing each other is really helpful, and following the guide that the pattern includes is also really helpful. Okay, so now that we have all our fabric cut out, we will need to transfer the markings on the pattern pieces onto it. Choose the one that works best for you and the fabric you're using. I found carbon paper and a tracing wheel worked really well for the ribbed knit and the right side of the sweatshirt fabric, but I had to use a pencil for the fleece side. For the notches used to align different pieces while you're sewing, I found a small cut was the most effective way of marking. So if you do this, make sure that you are keeping the cut within the seam allowance. We are now ready to start sewing. To prepare the pocket and other pieces down the line, I will be using a serger. If you do not have a serger, you can use an overlock or zigzag stitch on your sewing machine, or you can use pinking shears. You can also leave these seams unfinished as this fabric does not fray, but finished seams do make for a more durable and professional looking garment. We will start by neatening the sides and upper edges of the pocket. Next, we are going to baste the seam allowances at the pocket opening edges to the inside. You may pin this beforehand just to make it a little bit easier. And now we're going to finish neatening out the edges of the pocket. Then we are going to top stitch the pocket opening edges at about 1 centimeter wide, and we're going to be catching all of those allowances. this point, we're going to remove those basting stitches. You want to make sure that they're all gone before we go to the next step so that they aren't visible down the line. The following step is to baste the seam allowances at the side and upper edges onto the inside and to press that. And I'm going to take this opportunity to also press the stitch that we just made. Now we're going to attach the pocket to the front piece of the sweatshirt using the lines we marked earlier on. You may baste it in place or just use pins to secure it, but do baste the bottom edge of the pocket to the front piece. Sew along the sides and the top, making sure that everything remains securely in place. Next, we're going to sew the side seams of the hoodie. Lay the front and back pieces right sides together and pin. Then, stitch these seams and neaten the seam allowances using your preferred method. Finally, press the seam allowances onto the back pieces. Now we can move on to the sleeves. First, we will fold the sleeves lengthwise with right sides together. Then you can baste or pin these seams and stitch. When you're done, neaten the seam allowances and press to one side. The following step is preparing the sleeve bands that we cut from the rib knit fabric. Fold each sleeve band piece in half with the right side facing in, so as to form a tube. Stitch these ends together and press the seam allowance open. Then, fold the sleeve bands on the fold line, wrong sides facing in, and pin the open edges together at even distances. After that, pin the sleeve bands right sides together with the lower edge of the sleeves, making sure to match the seams. Stitch these together, stretching the sleeve bands to fit the sleeve edges. Take your time in this step because this can be a little bit tricky, especially for beginners. Then, trim the seam allowances and neaten them. Next up, it's time to attach the sleeves to the hoodie. Pin the sleeves right sides together with the armhole edges. Make sure the sleeves are on the correct sides. You may use the notches that we cut earlier to guide you. Ensure the sleeve seams and the sweatshirt side seams meet. Using Clover Wonder Clips is a really easy way to ensure your seams meet and that they don't budge while you're sewing. Stitch these pieces together, then trim the seam allowances, neaten them, and press towards the sleeves. This is what your sweatshirt should be looking like at this point. We can now move on to the waistband. Close the waistband in the same way we did the sleeve bands and stitch the ends together. Again, press the seam allowance open. Then, fold the waistband on the fold line with the wrong side facing in. Lastly, pin the open edges together at even distances, just like we did the sleeve bands. Next, we're going to pin the waistband right sides together with the lower edge of the sweatshirt, making sure the side seams meet. Then we're going to stitch this together, stretching the waistband to fit the lower hoodie edge. Check you have caught the pocket correctly. Finally, you can trim the seam allowances and neaten all of these edges. As an optional step, you may also press these seams into the sweatshirt so they lay nice and flat. For the hood, lay the two hood pieces together and stitch the center seam. Trim the seam allowances, neaten them, and press to one side. Our following step will be attaching the eyelets to the front of the hood. If this is your first time doing this, I recommend you practice on a scrap piece of fabric, preferably the same kind we're using for this project. Here's what I do. I lay down a towel in the sturdiest part of my work table. Then I find the marking for the eyelets on the fabric. Next, I use my small thread scissors to pierce a very small hole in the fabric. It's important that the hole is small so that the eyelets don't fall through. Then I place the eyelets in their respective positions and use the tool provided in the kit to hold them in place. Finally, I carefully use a hammer over the purple tool to close the eyelets in place. Then you repeat this process for the other side and you have eyelets. Now we're going to neaten the facing at the front of the hood edge. Next, we turn the front edge of the hood to the inside on the fold line and baste it in place. You may want to pin this first and then baste it. Then, top stitch the front hood edge, making sure to catch the facing we just basted. Follow your basting stitches as a guide if you need to. After removing the basting stitches, pin the left hood edge to the right one, matching the centers, and baste these edges together. To attach the hood to the sweatshirt, pin the right sides together, matching the centers of the hood and the neck edge. Use the notches we cut earlier to guide you. Stitch these together, then trim the seam allowances, neaten them, and press them down into the sweatshirt. Last but not least, we will be inserting the cord into the hood. To do this, wrap the end of the cord in tape and insert through one eyelet into the casing. Now, patience is key to maneuver the cord through the casing and out through the other eyelet. This could take a while. When you finally get it through, tie a knot in each end of the cord, and the sweatshirt is done.
Okay, so here's our finished project. This is really cozy and really soft and really beginner friendly because really the hardest part of the sweatshirt was the eyelets. And it's not because they're particularly difficult, it's just that it's your first time. It might take you a little bit to figure out how to do it properly. But I feel like with the tips and tricks that we have added in this video, should be fairly easy and straightforward. And even if you make any mistakes, it's something that you can still wear for as pajamas or around the house as loungewear. So even if you don't feel like this is ready to wear out or to give as a gift, you can still make use of the piece, which is really nice. So it's a really good starter project for a beginner, or if you are trying to work with knits for the first time, this might be a fun project to use for that. If you do end up making this sweatshirt or hoodie, please share those photos with us. You can share them on our website, create your own account. It's free to join. You can just upload your pictures and tag us, and we can see your work. And it'd be really fun for us to see what you create and what you come up with. If you make different combinations, if you make any alterations, what are they? It would be really fun for us to look at that. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. We will try to get back to you as fast as possible and help as much as possible as well. As I mentioned earlier, every product that we used for this sweatshirt will be available below. We will have all of that linked so you can find it really easily. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed sewing along with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.